So I got back in LA on March 1st. There was not another severe COVID patient in a hospital in Los Angeles at all. Once I got intubated, I was put in a medically induced coma, and it lasted 31 days. So
31 days in a coma.
given literally a 1% chance of survival during that time. And the crazy part about this was once my medical team met with my family and said, if he doesn't turn around in the next couple of days, you might want to say your goodbyes. And all of a sudden that next day, everything just turned and I started getting better.
Wow.
I have no idea why. It was a hard time. I mean, I had to learn how to walk again. I lost 50 pounds. I had to learn how to chew, swallow, eat, for that matter. You have to heal. You have to allow yourself to heal. Throughout this journey, I had bad moments, but I never had a bad day. I would not allow that to happen. So everything that transpired through that journey was a gift. It wasn't always easy, but it was really, truly focusing on that mindset that propelled me to the next level.
Welcome to the other episode of the Hassan Bash Show. Today we have an amazing guest, Gregg Garfield. I'm so excited to have you on the episode today because you have a story that is a part of a breakthrough of so many different aspects of life and resilience that will touch a lot of the people in my audience that I'm going to share this with, but also the people that are listening to this. I want to make sure before we begin, joining us today, a true testament specifically to you, man, to the power of positive thinking that you brought up throughout the journey that you began. Your journey, man, like the more I read about it, from being patient zero, 1% chance of living, it's a miracle. And I can't wait to just get into your story and the potential of human spirit. Just, it's amazing. So thank you for being on the show, man. Can't wait to talk to you and get to the aspect of your story.
Been a pleasure, man.
Good, man. Well, what I want to start with, Gregg, is I want you to take us from the beginning of just before that incident that happened to you. Take us from the beginning, right when you were in Italy.
So every year I go on a European ski trip with my buddies, and this was our second time back in Val Gardena, Italy. We got to the hotel. I ended up getting a call from my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance, and she said to me, are you aware of this thing called the coronavirus? It's in northern Italy where you are. So we didn't really have too much fear of it because we're all pretty healthy guys. We're big athletes. I ski 70 to 100 days a year. And we weren't really going to be around other people too frequently. We were staying in a boutique hotel. So we had dinners with just ourselves, with the 13 guys. We had lunches with everybody. The only time we were around people is in the very first tram that goes to the top of the hill. So we didn't really have too much fear. And I said, all right, look, I'll be careful. I'll let you know what's going on. And 3 days into to skiing, all of us started coming down with flu-like symptoms. So it was a little interesting at that point.
Yeah.
We were a little freaked out, but at the same time, we didn't believe this was quote unquote COVID. And after the 3 days of skiing, I laid up in my room. I had a slight fever. I was feeling a little funky. I was supposed to, when I got back from the trip, I was supposed to leave in 3 days for a helicopter skiing trip. So I said to myself, look, take care of yourself. You're going to miss a couple of days of skiing. We'll get back to the States. We'll go back, we'll go to Canada and go heli skiing. 3 of our friends that were from Sweden ended up going home a couple of days early. One guy checked into the hospital, was sent home with the flu. So he called us and we knew we had the flu at this point. Well, we got done with our trip. We were flying back on the 29th of February, 2020. Then we were spending the night in Munich. That next morning, one of my buddies checked into the hospital with double pneumonia and subsequently missed our flight in the morning. So we get on the flight, and 3/4 of the way through the flight, we get a text message from him that he tested positive for COVID. So we're like, oh, now we all have the flu, quote unquote. We're on the plane, and we land. I call my doctor. Well, first I call AJ and said, do not come to my house because I'm in a quarantine. I call my doctor, who immediately called the CDC, who sent a hazmat team to my house,
Oh,
picked
wow.
me up in a hazmat van. The guy's in full garb, the shield, the masks, the whole outfit, and takes me to his office in Pacoima, where I was tested at that point because, do understand, March 1st of 2020, there was no random testing. So they brought me into this inflow room, which was the size of a box for the most part. And, as we all have had tests for COVID, putting the swab up your nostril and so forth, they did it pretty extreme. So they basically hit the back of my brain, for lack of a better concept. Both nostrils. It was incredibly uncomfortable. Needless to say, 24 hours later, I test positive for COVID. So I'm now quarantining at home. This is around March 2nd. On the 4th, I was on the phone with a really good buddy of mine, and he was asking me, who picked you up? I don't remember. Where'd they take you? I don't recall. All these different little specifics. And he looks at me and he goes, man, you're messed up. He goes, you're not the guy that doesn't know these details. You need to go to the hospital. I'm like, all right, I'm fine. I'll get better. I'm not really worried about it. And he's like, dude, you have brain fog. You do not know what's going on. You need some help. Gets a mutual friend on the phone who is a retired physician. And he ended up calling around to all the hospitals in Los Angeles, none of which were going to take a COVID patient. They said, go to the emergency room. We're talking Cedars, USC, UCLA, St. John's. They said, we're not ready with an inflow room. Go to the emergency room. Well, if you go to the emergency room, I'm COVID positive. It's a fact. I infect everybody. Well, that's not even an option. So we ended up getting in touch with St. Joe's in Burbank, and they were the only hospital that was ready with an inflow room. And I said to my buddy, let me see how good I feel overnight, and if in the morning I feel worse, we'll pull the trigger and I go to the hospital. Well, subsequently, I was trying to get my dog taken care of. Not anybody I called, from my vet, my dog trainer, my housekeeper. We contacted everybody so that somebody could take care of the dog when I went in the hospital. At this point, we weren't understanding COVID. We thought it was living on surfaces, on dog fur, as in that time we were wiping off our groceries, we were wiping down countertops and so forth and so on. So nobody would take care of the dog. So come 5 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't breathe. And at the time, my dog was crate trained. So I called my buddy and I'm like, all right, look, I got to go to the hospital. I can't breathe. And we called the ambulance and I put Bear in her crate and I said, we'll get you out of here, girl. And the ambulance came and they showed up in full hazmat gear and they took me to the hospital at 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So it was crazy.
So, coming back to, this is, it's like beginning of, let's March, what? You said March the 2nd?
So I got back in LA on March 1st. There was not another severe COVID patient in a hospital in Los Angeles at all.
You're the first one.
There were people that actually had COVID prior to me going in, but nobody knew that it was COVID, number one. So, and nobody had it that severely in LA. There was an individual who in Washington, in Providence, St. Joe's in Washington, that actually was admitted before I was. And my medical team was collaborating with them to really figure out, what do we do? Like, they had no idea what to expect with this. So wow. This was on March 5th. So I just had my 4-year anniversary just 2 weeks ago, or 11 days ago, of being admitted to the hospital. On March 7th, my doctor came in and said, your oxygen saturation is so low, we have to intubate you. Well, I had no idea what that was. And I call AJ, my now fiance, and said, I'm going to be offline for a couple days. And she was excited that I was in a place where they can help me and not at home. So she goes, okay, babe, it's, they're going to take care of you. So once I got intubated, I was put in a medically induced coma, and it lasted 31 days. So
31 days in a coma. 31 days.
Yeah, given literally a 1% chance of survival during that time. I had everything go wrong that you could imagine. I had MRSA, I had sepsis, I had a pulmonary embolism, I had ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome. I had complete organ failure. I was put on 24-hour dialysis. My lungs collapsed 4 different times. I was 2 days shy of going on something called ECMO, which is an iron lung. You don't survive from that too often. And the crazy part about this was once my medical team met with my family and said, if he doesn't turn around in the next couple of days, you might want to say your goodbyes. And all of a sudden that next day, everything just turned and I started getting better.
Wow.
I have no idea why.
Man, I mean, 1% chance, 31 days in a coma. I mean, it must have felt like your world has been collapsing around you. And can you, like, what at that moment, do you remember all these different phases of what, like, at
Well, I
that?
was asleep, man. When I was in a coma, I was absolutely asleep. So that story was really AJ and my sisters. They were the ones that were managing. I call it my village. So they were giving updates 3 to 4 times a day to family, friends, and whatnot. It started at about a couple hundred people, and it morphed into about a few thousand, and then it went worldwide. So my story went viral. It was actually an incredible situation where there was so much love behind me and support that I'm the luckiest person alive. I shouldn't be here medically speaking, which is the craziest thing to say. What ended up happening also was they put me on pressors, which forces your blood to your vital organs for survival because I was having organ failure, and it compromises your extremities. And my fingers died. A couple of my toes died. My fingers were turning black, and they were oh gosh, they felt like wood.
What was the reason? What was the reason behind that?
So the pressors force your blood to your vital organs for survival. It compromises your extremities. So it contracts your blood vessel or the veins and arteries to force your blood to where it matters for survival.
Wow, that's interesting. That naturally it does that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, look, your blood has to go somewhere. They want to force all of it to the places that matter. I'm glad they did because I'm alive today to talk about it. Subsequently, once I got out of the hospital on May 8th, after 64 days of being in the hospital, I had 9 surgeries in 8 months, amputations, reconstruction, things like that. And it was a crazy time. I mean, every 3 weeks I was under the knife.
And this is all happening and you don't know about it.
Oh no, I'm awake after the 31 days.
Okay.
So once I came out of sedation,
okay,
nobody was allowed in the hospital at this point. So you can recall that.
100%.
I was FaceTiming with my family. I had tubes coming out of me in every orifice, up my nose, out of my chest. I mean, all sorts of crazy. I had a trach that was allowing me to breathe. That's through my neck. I was on oxygen. They were at that particular point, they were trying to wean me off the oxygen so I could breathe on my own. I think it was up until about a week before I got discharged was when they removed the trach out of my neck. It was a hard time. I mean, I had to learn how to walk again. I lost 50 pounds. I had to learn how to chew, swallow, eat, for that matter. I wasn't allowed to drink just regular water because I had to drink thickened water because of the fear of aspirating. There was just some crazy times during that period. And I started to obviously get better, and I had to be invited up to the rehab facility at that hospital. It wasn't like an expectation of like, oh, you get better, you just go to the rehab. You have to be invited up there. And I turned to the head of rehab and said, I promise you, if you do this, I won't let you down. And fortunately enough, I was able to do that and go up to that rehab center. So I wasn't put into an outside rehab facility, which is not the best facilities in the world that you end up. I pushed so hard that very first day that the doctor came in and said, whoa, you need to slow down a little bit, because if you give it 150% and you only have 50% to give the next day, that's a failure. So give me 80% every day. So I had to learn patience, which is not easy for me. I had to learn humility, but failure wasn't an option for me. And the very first thing I mentioned to my therapist, my physical therapist, was, when I get out of here, I'm not being wheeled out. I'm going to walk out. And
wow.
they weren't too confident that that was going to happen.
What were they say? Like, how did you know they were not confident? Was it the feel or?
Well, they said to me, he goes, look, create, favorable expectations. He goes, you're going to walk, but maybe you might walk out of here with a walker. And I looked at him and I said, that's not possible. I said, this is what my intentions are, and this is what's going to happen. And we fought a pretty good fight.
Wow.
So around the 64th day, I was getting out of there, and I was able, well, back up a little bit. While I was trying to walk through the hallways, they asked me to walk 50 steps. And I started doing it without any assistance. And that 50 steps turned into 150 steps because I wouldn't quit. And they're walking behind me with a wheelchair. I had two guys on either side of me that were going to catch me if I fell, and the whole thing. And I really set some serious goals for myself. Not only was my goal to walk out of that hospital, I wanted to get back on skis by the end of the year.
Wow.
And to say the least, excuse my French, my doctors thought I was batshit crazy.
Wow.
Because I had to wear a brace on my right leg because I had something called drop foot, which I had something called peroneal neuropathy. So when I was in sedation, they had compression sleeves on my legs to avoid blood clotting, because I had blood clots throughout my body. And what it did was it compromised and pierced my peroneal nerve on the right side of my knee. Think of this as I could push my foot on an accelerator, but I couldn't retract my foot off the accelerator to slow down.
Wow.
So when I would walk, I had to have a metal brace, a metal piece in my shoe that, and it kind of hooked onto my shin, like as a shin guard, and the plate was into my shoe. I would load up while walking, and the plate would actually create pressure so that when I unweighted on the plate, it would throw my foot back. So I could walk with a little bit more of a normal gait, for lack of a better concept, right? But without being able to retract my foot, there is no way I'm getting back on skis. And there was a 90% chance that the peroneal nerve would grow back.
Oh, wow.
But it took 6 months. So once I got out of the hospital, and they did an amazing, what they call the Rocky moment, there were over 200 people from the hospital that were in the atrium out there, that when I was wheeled down, because you have to be wheeled down in a wheelchair before you go out, and wheeled into an arena, that there were cheers coming from all the medical staff, everybody that was in the hospital. I had no idea who was taking care of the patients at that point, because it was kind of nuts how crazy it was. There were
the video. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was kind of nuts. There was about 100 plus of my friends outside, plus every media outlet was filming it. So, being patient zero, the first COVID patient in Los Angeles, they really wanted me to leave that hospital, and they really didn't know that was going to be a possibility.
Wow.
So that was a pretty amazing accomplishment for myself and for the whole medical team, that I survived and I thrived. I was able to leave the hospital, went home. I had an amazing support team with physical therapists that came every day, nurses that came every day. And we started our journey in getting back in shape. As I said, I lost 50 pounds. I went in at 197. I came out at 147. So I looked like a kid from Auschwitz.
Wow. And throughout this journey, man, I want you how much was it mindset? How much was it for you mindset, and how much was it just practical, going back to the main basics of what you have to do? I would love to.
It was a combination of both. I mean, obviously you have to heal. You have to allow yourself to heal. But at the same time, keeping that mindset strong throughout this journey, I had bad moments, but I never had a bad day. I would not allow that to happen. And through the support of AJ, my fiance, she wouldn't let that fail. She always would, when we were having conversations, she always would remind me of, the gift that I was given, that I'm still here. And the whole concept behind all the challenges I was going through on a daily basis. And the mantra was, I get to do this. I get to have success. I get to have adversity. I get to learn how to walk again. So it was everything that transpired through that journey was a gift. It wasn't always easy, but it was really truly focusing on that mindset that propelled me to the next level. And man, when I tell you, that physical therapy was hard. I mean, I was doing it 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, and 5 days a week.
Man,
And it was tough.
how long was that? 6 months, you said?
No, that particular time was the next 30 days.
Yeah, 30 days. Okay.
So for 30 days, when I first took my first couple of steps, I mean, I still was on a form of life support. And I had tubes through my chest. I had tray coming out of me. I was attached to IVs, all this crazy stuff. Walking 3 steps was a marathon for me. And I kicked out my physical therapist multiple times because I was utterly exhausted. And AJ turned to me and said, "You got to do this, because if you can't get up to the physical therapy place, you can't get out of here." And my very first motivation, this is kind of a crazy story. My first motivation to get out of bed was I did not want to take a crap in a bedpan one more time, but I had to make it 15 steps across the room to get into a bathroom.
Wow.
So those 3 steps that I took, that I actually kicked my therapist out after those 3 steps, I looked at AJ and said, "Get him back in." And she said, "Why?" I said, "I need to get to the bathroom." She goes, "Wait a minute, that's 15. I said, "Get him back in here." And I made it.
That's amazing.
And that's where the mindset really kicked in.
Wow. Now, does that mindset come from past life experiences, Greg? Because you went.
I will say yes. I'm not, what's the phrase I'm looking for? I am not someone that has not experienced adversity in my life. I had a mother that survived 2 bouts of cancer. One was pancreatic, which nobody survives. I outskied an avalanche in 2006. My father passed away after 15 years of Alzheimer's. So adversity is a little bit close to my heart, unfortunately. And, I've definitely received some challenges, some monkey wrenches thrown in my day, but they never got the best of me. I was always a person that truly looked at the glass half full, but this was a test that was to the nth degree.
Wow. That's amazing, man. And talking about the community that supported you and the resilience within that, a lot of the entrepreneurs and leaders are listening to this. Sometimes having a team is what takes you to the next level.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us more about the community, and how was that like a big move for your journey throughout that tough journey that you went through?
It was everything. I mean, it was truly everything. The fact that I had the mindset I did, which was wonderful, but it took it to another level with all the love and support. And it started with a few hundred people and then ended up in the thousands of people that communicated with me, and they were standing behind me. Failure was not an option. Not only did I not want to fail for myself, but I didn't want to fail for them. And there was, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I forged my first birth certificate when I was 14 years old to flip burgers at Burger King.
So you were a natural sales guy.
That was always me. I was a guy that was out there, and I wanted to make it happen for myself. I've been in business for myself since I was 17 years old. I started my career, what I do now, at 23. I'm a credit card processor by trade. Been doing it now for 34 plus years. November will be 35. And my team really stood up and supported me and my business to allow me to recover, survive, and thrive where my business survived and thrived.
Yeah, that's an interesting part that you brought up, because I remember when we had this discussion before, you said that, the company actually did much, like when you were like 2 months kind of gone, the company did well. And as a team, they were taking care of everything as you were gone.
Yeah, I mean, I empowered my team to make decisions. And as an entrepreneur, look, I'm an A-type personality. My personal belief, nobody's going to do it better than me. However, you have to empower your team. You have to allow your team to make decisions and to not be fearful of making those decisions. They may make mistakes, but it's not about the mistakes you make. It's how you recover from those mistakes. And empower your people that when the captain falls off the ship, as I did, that they can allow that ship to run, because I'm responsible for a lot of people. And as an employer, and if your business collapses, your people collapse. So once again, that was not an option. And fortunately enough for my team, they carried the ball.
Wow. Well, that shows a lot of, character and leadership within, before the fact and during the fact and after the fact, which is awesome that you had that team, because team is everything.
Correct.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Now,
I appreciate that.
absolutely, man. After you coming out of it, finding purpose. How did purpose shift for you in life? Because for me, for specifically, I'm always seeking clarity, and I'm finding clarity with, okay, there's the money side of things, there's the making an impact. Okay, great, helping people and all this other stuff. What happened after that huge shift for you?
So when I was in the hospital, the what I became aware of, well, obviously I was aware that the world changed. It was kind of a Rumpelstiltskin moment. You go to sleep, the world is one way. You wake up, it's a different place that we're living in now, especially at that particular point in time where the world shut down. And if I had to be away from the office for that long, it's a timing. It was a good time to do that because everything shut down. One of the things that was happening during that period of time is a lot of mis and disinformation. Nobody really understood COVID. I think even today, nobody understands COVID to this extreme. But I took it upon myself, as well as my fiance, to be in the public eye and to be interviewed to help others in having an understanding of what this thing really is and how and who it can affect. At that particular time, people were saying it only hurts the elderly. It only hurts the health compromised. It only hurts the obese. Here's somebody like myself that has never had a pre-existing condition. I'm one of the healthiest people you could ever meet. I'm a big athlete. I've always been my whole life. And it hit me harder than anybody still alive. And, I wanted to educate others and having them have an understanding of what this really was from my own personal experience. This wasn't about conspiracy theorism. It wasn't about I heard of someone that did something, and I lived it. I almost died it. So I wanted to educate people. We got the Today Show interviewed us. We did a tremendous amount of podcasts. We were on every news station. Subsequently, when he got out of the hospital, we were in People TV. We were in People Magazine. We were on the Ellen Show. We did Extra. We did Inside Edition, and every newscast that's out there. And we did a show called The Doctors. So we were out there educating others. And then I started a motivational speaking business because of it. And we were reached out by a lot of families that had severe COVID patients in their family. And we advocated for over 20 plus COVID patients. And we were by their side for the family, as well as I went into the hospital and was by an individual's bedside and was giving him hope that he too could make it like I did. Unfortunately, all 20 plus people passed away that were severe. And
Wow.
it's a very unfortunate thing. I, fortunately enough, didn't have any PTSD from this. I was empowered by the opportunity to help others. And that started giving me a larger purpose to realize my efforts were to help other people, not just in the COVID space, but overcoming any kind of adversity in their lives, because we all have it. And no one adversity should be treated as grander than another, because at that time you as an individual are struggling with your adversity, whatever that moment is. But I'm here to tell you that you can overcome anything with whatever monkey wrench gets thrown to you.
Wow. And the people that are going through whoever's listening to this, and people that every story could possibly be something. Whatever pain you go through now, currently, whatever that pain is, at some point could become a story that you could leverage and help other people.
100%. Look, I lost my fingers because of this. I could very easily look down at my hands and say, "Oh, woe is me. I don't have any fingers. Like, this is hard." As hard as it is, I'm the happiest person I've ever been in my life right now, with all the trauma that I have had. Learning how to do things at the time I was 53 years old. I'll be 58 next month. I'm in better shape than I've ever been. I'm able to do 95+% of everything I've done before. I do it a little different, but It's an accomplishment that I always create every morning when I get up as a gift. And we all have the power to do it. We just have to believe.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, that's just the part. There's so many different parts that, in entrepreneurship, people when they get to hear your story, because thousands of people that worldwide heard your story, because when someone searches your name, you come up right away. And when people are facing their battles, how could you envision your journey impacting others who may be struggling with their own challenges? And what would you tell them on a personal level? Because not everyone is facing challenges like what you went through. They might face different challenges. What would you tell them?
As I mentioned before, you just have to believe. Everybody has a different challenge every day. Have that bad moment, address the bad moment, embrace that bad moment. But that bad moment does not have to create a bad day. You can manage anything. Take a step back, take a breath, get in control of yourself, and implement. As entrepreneurs, how did you build your business? You had adversities building your business. You had to have. Nothing was given to you 100%. You may have been lucky at times, but you're also maybe not at others, but you've succeeded. Remember that. If you grew up as an athlete, if you played soccer, it's not about being the best on the team. It's about you doing the best you can at that moment, and you get to contribute. The people that contribute in your business are the people that bring you up. The people that are in the mailroom are just as important as the people that are in sales, because they have a task that they bring you what you need. Without them, you can't get what you get done. Everybody has a part. When I left the hospital, when I was leaving my room, the housekeeper, the maid that was cleaning my room, stood up and said, "I didn't think you were going to make it. I'm so proud of you." And she started to cry and hugged me when I was leaving.
Wow. That gave me the goosebumps just now.
These are the people, everybody was a part of my journey. So pay attention to that around you. It's greater than yourself.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Greg. I want to ask you, throughout your journey, and we'll navigate a little bit more towards your business and what are you up to today? What's your favorite book, or what's your favorite book, but what is a book that you loved and you would go back to, or a mentor that you have always seek to, someone that you could share with the audience?
Well, it's really interesting. I'm not a reader, so that question doesn't necessarily apply to me.
Okay.
I'm that doer type of person, right?
Okay.
So that said, my stepdaughter read 83 books this year. She's a journalism major, so we're two different spectrums.
Okay.
Somebody I did meet that was an empowering individual that opened up my eyes was a gentleman by the name of Chris Waddell. Chris Waddell is the most accomplished sit-down skier. He's a Paralympian, and he's the most accomplished Olympic sit-down skier on a monoski. He sits in a chair with two outriggers, and he's won 27 medals in the Olympics.
Wow.
He also has a foundation called One Revolution, and subsequently he did a documentary, and he climbed Kilimanjaro in a pedal bike wheelchair that is on Amazon Prime, and I highly recommend that everybody watches this. And it's called One Revolution. Talk about mindset, talk about accomplishments. It's amazing. He was a ski racer that in his 20s got injured, broke his back, was confined to a wheelchair, became a paraplegic, got introduced to the sit-down monoski, and became the best in the world at what he did. And for my business, I'm a credit card processor by trade. I have a philanthropic part of my business that started 12 years ago. It started in Mammoth Mountain ski area, and we became the merchant processor for Mammoth Mountain. We aligned with the Mammoth Mountain Community Foundation, and we peeled off a percentage of our profits and started donating it every month to the foundation, and 100% of our money went to the public school system up there. Come to find out 5 years in that we audited the program, and we found out that the STEM and music curriculum exists because of the money we donated. It affected thousands of children's lives in a 4.5 square mile town, and we decided to brand it. And it's called Chip In, Giving Profit a Purpose.
Love that.
We brought it off the hill, and we meet or beat anybody's program, and we donate 10% of our profits to the charity of your choice for life. And it's making a difference in communities. So I was introduced to Chris from an associate of mine that is a friend in Mammoth, and we're trying to raise money for his foundation. Well, he lives in Park City, and I was there visiting a friend of mine, and I called Chris and I said, would you do me the honor of skiing with me? And he said, it'd be a pleasure. And AJ and I went out and we met him at the base of the hill. He comes skiing up to me, and basically you see a guy in a wheelchair in the very beginning. He gets on a chairlift with us, and I'm a pretty darn fast and good skier. I will tell you this, the guy blew my doors off.
Wow.
I couldn't catch him. And it was the most impactful moment I have ever experienced of my athletic career, with my athletic abilities as an able-bodied person that has legs. I don't have fingers anymore, but I can hold one pole, not another. But he blew my doors off. And
Wow.
you don't see that wheelchair anymore. You see an accomplished athlete.
Wow.
And he taught me at that moment that it's bigger than yourself. You can accomplish anything if you put your mind to it.
I love that. Wow. That's awesome, dude. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad that you said you're not a reader, you're more of the doer and execution, because you could read so much, but experience always gives a lot more than just reading. And having conversations with people and building relationships is really important. And that I want the people that are listening to this, that's a huge point. And I'm glad that you said that. That yes, there's a lot of great books, but in the same time, you got to execute.
It's all about execution.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. I would love to navigate the conversation more about, Card Connect and making payments simple, secure, and reliable.
Yes.
And this is your company, and I want to know more about it. What's happening? Just tell me what's really going on in this industry. Where is it going, and like what's happening?
Payments are, oh God, the evolution of payments, it's transpired. It evolved in so many different ways. I mean, back in the old days, you had the old knuckle busters, and then all of a sudden you come out and there's electronic point of sale terminals. And then these days you can turn your cell phone into a credit card system. And then now you go online and everything's done with secure payment gateways and transacting online. And we're becoming a non-cash society. It's evolved tremendously. And, really the base behind it is there really isn't a lot of people out there that really are educators in this space. And I pride myself on that. I've built my business organically. I've never advertised. It's all been word of mouth. It's all based on networking. As you and I met through our provisors group, networking space, creating relationships through networking is how I built my business. And then I started doing our chip-in piece, where it's really making a difference. And my purpose is, I've been very successful in my life. I've made a lot of money. I've lost a lot of money, but I've created long-lasting relationships. And if I could bring that to the table, creating more relationships and impacting communities financially as well as emotionally, that to me is what will make me the ultimate success. And what I've done is I've aligned with multiple foundations, and I'm open to taking on any foundation that wants to raise money naturally and reoccurring donations, not just having somebody write a one-time check. We utilize this vehicle of payment processing to create that reoccurring sustainable donations on an ongoing basis to continually make a difference.
That's awesome, man. And the types of clients that you get to work with today, who are they?
Really everybody. I mean, anything from retail, restaurant, mail order, doctors, attorneys, accountants, manufacturing, anybody that's in the business to business space, anybody that offers a fee for service and wants to get paid. You have to utilize a non-cash transaction ability, whether it's credit cards, whether it's ACH. Cash is kind of a challenge these days. I mean, the banks charge you to deposit cash. So you have to work in a non-cash environment. And a payment facilitator, which is what I do, I can educate people on the most cost-effective way of doing that, utilizing the tools that I would suggest to help you save money initially as a business. And then with our chip-in program, create what they call ESG credits. ESG is environmental, social, and governance. Investors and people that buy your companies or want to buy your companies, most of them only want to invest in socially conscious businesses. So we either enhance your ESG presence or create an ESG presence at no cost to you because the money comes from us.
I love that. That's awesome. And, throughout the journey of having a company like this, do you have any other projects that are running with it that you're like excited about that you want to talk about?
Well, we're hoping to really build our motivational speaking business,
Okay.
to really get in front of others. I was just hired by a company. This is really fascinating. I was introduced to this company from my surgeon, my hand surgeon, and it is a tissue bank. And that tissue bank donated the skin tissue that was responsible or assisted in reconstructing my hands.
Wow.
So I spoke in front of 250 people at their national sales meeting in Dallas and was so empowered by being a part of that family and thanked them for really making a difference in my life. And it really empowered them so that they could see what they accomplished and what their job accomplishes. That turned into 2 other talks that we're about to do in May and October. We're going to be in front of a group of people in Kansas City, and then in Denver, we're going to talk to over 1,000 people. That is the association of these tissue banks that we're going to go out and do that talk. So that may result into a book, possibly. It may result into a movie, possibly. So there's opportunities out there that we're looking into.
Well, I can't wait to see the next chapters, man. This has been a pleasure to have the conversation with you, and thank you for being the guest here. I can't wait to share it with a lot of different people in my network, but also sharing it with my audience. That being said, man, where could people actually find you and connect with you? Let's say someone wanted you to speak at their event, or maybe wanted to connect with you about your payment processing services. Where could they find you?
So GreggGarfield.com. That's GreggGarfield.com. That is my speaking website. Also, you can reach us on our chip-in website, chip-in.org. Then you can always give me a call at my office number, 818-981-6968. And we're here. And
That's
then
awesome.
also on Instagram at garfski.com. Or I'm sorry, just at garfski.
Perfect. That's awesome, man. And what final words would you like to leave the audience about your journey, man? I mean, this is a journey itself. I feel like we could have like different segments of the journey, but what final words of wisdom or of anything that is on your chest that you would like to leave the podcast with?
Well, I always say to everybody, and I think I said this before in the podcast, your challenges and the, how do you put this? Your challenges are real. Everything that happens is real to you in that moment. You just have to believe that anything is possible. You can come out on the other side of this as a winner, as you probably always have, and there's nothing that is outside of your grasp. You just have to believe.
Gregg, thank you so much for your time and storytelling. Appreciate you, man. All love, and thank you for being on the show, man.
It's been an honor, my friend.
And that brings us to a close of another episode on the Hassan Bash Show. Thank you for dedicating time to your growth and progress with us today. Each episode is a step toward not just reaching, but exceeding your potential. To ensure you never miss out on another episode or these insights, subscribe to the podcast. For a deeper dive and exclusive content that furthers your journey, sign up for our newsletter at hassanbash.com. That's HassanBash.com. And for a continuous flow of inspiration, make sure to follow us across our socials. Your support through sharing our podcast can inspire and empower others in their journey of progress. So let's build a community of growth together. Until our paths cross again, remember every day is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and move forward. Stay curious, stay inspired, and above all, keep progressing. I'm Hassan signing off. Here's to your journey of endless growth.